Your sister got a new car for her graduation. Dad said. You deserve it. You've worked so hard. I opened my gift, a cleaning supplies set. Mom smiled. It's time you helped out more around the house. Lucia laughed in my face. I packed my bag and left. Days later, my parents called me, panicked. Where are you? Come home. This has been weighing on me for a while, and I think it's time to get it off my chest. The whole situation with my family was frustrating, but I never imagined it would end like this. I'm still in shock, to be honest. So sit down, because this is one of those stories you won't believe. First, a little about me. My name is Olivia, and I'm the older sister. I grew up feeling like the only one who had to carry all the weight in our family, while my younger sister Lucia always got away with everything. Now I'm 27, working an 8-to-5 office job, still trying to find my way. But I've always been the responsible one. Doesn't bother me, to be honest. I was taught that hard work pays off even if it's a slow process. Lucia, on the other hand, is 21. And let's just say she's never been a fan of effort. If there's one thing Lucia is an expert at, it's manipulating situations to her advantage. Somehow she's always managed to have everything handed to her on a silver platter. Whether it's new gadgets, designer clothes, or trips. Our parents were always willing to give her whatever she wanted. Meanwhile, I was left with the boring chores. Taking care of the house, running errands, and handling everything they didn't want to do. Our parents, Mom and Dad, were always strict with me. They repeated over and over that I had to earn my place, that life wouldn't be easy. That was their favorite phrase. I never understood why they treated me differently from Lucia. They said they wanted me to be responsible and focused. I accepted it, but always on their terms. If they needed something, they came to me. If an important decision had to be made, I had to lead. But with Lucia it was different. They treated her like a princess. No matter what she did, she was always right. Over the years, I learned to cope with this dynamic. I didn't have all the luxuries or expensive gifts, but I had something they didn't: independence. At 16, I already had a job. I worked hard to pay for my studies, and I always managed to keep things under control. But Lucia never lifted a finger. It drove me crazy to see how my parents did everything for her. But the worst came at her graduation. For my parents, it was a huge event. They acted like it was the greatest achievement in the world. Lucia barely passed her classes, barely ever really tried, but they were still incredibly proud of her. And me? Well, you'll see. On the day of her celebration, we organized a small gathering, nothing extravagant, but my parents treated it like a world event. There was a cake with her name, balloons everywhere, and decorations as if it were the most important party of the year. For them, I guess it was. I don't want to sound resentful, but it's hard not to feel that way after years in my position. Lucia was the center of everything, and my parents didn't even seem to notice what I had done for the family. I kept the house in order, helped pay the bills when Dad's salary wasn't enough, did the shopping, laundry, and took care of everything involved in running a household. And then came the gifts. Lucia received her shiny Peugeot 208, a brand new car, a gift our parents could barely afford. In fact, I later found out they had taken out a loan to buy it. I wasn't bothered by the car itself. I was bothered by the fact that they couldn't afford it, but still bought it for her. That hurt, especially when they didn't even acknowledge the sacrifices I had made. And then it was my turn. I tried to ignore my feelings. I didn't want to be that person who complains just because they don't receive an expensive gift. But what I received, well, let's just say it was a slap in the face. I sat on the couch, waiting for my turn, trying to hide the anxiety building up inside me. Somehow I already knew what was coming. The anxiety was churning inside me. It was as if I already knew what was going to happen. Mom smiled at me, but it wasn't the warm, loving smile I was used to. It felt different, almost condescending. Olivia, she said, her voice too sweet. We know you're very responsible, and we just want to make sure you have what you need for your future. We thought this would be practical. I tried to smile back, struggling to hide the frustration growing inside me. I didn't want to seem ungrateful, but I was already bracing myself for disappointment. I had to maintain my composure. They handed me a small box. It felt light. When I opened it, I wasn't prepared for what I found inside. There were cleaning products, rolls of paper towels, sponges, dish soap, and other things like that. My heart sank. I had no words, or at least I couldn't pronounce them. I stared at the contents for a few seconds, my mind trying to process it. Mom, Dad. I began, but my voice cracked. What is this? Dad let out a laugh and slapped his knee. Well, Olivia, now you can be even more helpful around the house. You've always been so responsible. And this is just another way to recognize everything you contribute. I blinked, trying to understand. Was it a joke? Lucia, sitting next to me, had a wide smile. She looked at me with a mocking, almost arrogant expression. Yeah, Ollie, now you can keep everything nice and clean. It's always you who takes care of the housework anyway. My stomach churned. I knew this was going to hurt, but I didn't expect it to be this bad. They had given Lucia a Peugeot 208, a car, and me cleaning supplies. I swallowed hard, my throat tight, as if I was choking on something I couldn't name. I stood up. I didn't want to keep sitting there. I didn't want to see that box of cleaning products in front of me. I'm going out for a while, I said coldly. I need some air. Without waiting for an answer, I grabbed my jacket, packed a bag, and left the house. I didn't know what I expected to find outside. I just knew I didn't want to be there. I heard my parents calling me, but I didn't look back. I don't know how long I walked that night, but it felt like hours. I just kept moving forward, one foot in front of the other, no matter where I was going. It wasn't until I found a bench in a park in Valencia that I finally stopped. I dropped onto it, my mind racing. I should have been furious, and I was. But I was also tired. Tired of always being the responsible one. Tired of doing everything right, only to be ignored or dismissed. I pulled out my phone and started scrolling through some messages from friends, trying to distract myself from the disaster that had just occurred. I didn't want to go home. But where else could I go? That place was all I had, even if it felt more like a prison than a home. I finally decided to call a taxi to take me to a friend's house. I just needed space. When I arrived, I told Javier everything. He listened in silence, but I could see the frustration in his eyes. He knew what I had been going through with my family. You don't deserve that, Olivia, he finally said. You've broken your back for years and they just use you. You're not a maid. I let out a sigh, feeling the weight of the last few years fall on me again. I don't know what to do. I've given them everything, and Lucia, she doesn't appreciate anything. She's spoiled. For my parents, it's like they never do anything wrong. Javier was quiet for a moment, then said something I had never really thought about before. And why don't you really leave? Find a job. Start over somewhere else. You don't need them, Ollie. You can do it. His words hit me like a ton of bricks. He was right. I didn't have to stay. I didn't have to keep being their backup plan. I had always thought I had no other choice. But in that moment, for the first time in my life, I felt like I could be free. I spent the night at Javier's, and when I woke up, I knew what I had to do. It wasn't just about the gift anymore. It was about my whole life, the way my parents treated me compared to Lucia. So I packed a bag, grabbed what I needed, and went to my parents' house to tell them I was leaving. They weren't home at that moment, which made it all feel even more like closing a chapter one could never return to. When they returned, it didn't take long for them to realize something was wrong. I was in the middle of moving out when I heard their car pulling into the driveway. My heart skipped a beat when the front door creaked open. Olivia! Mom's voice echoed down the hall, surprised. Where are you going? I walked into the living room with my suitcase in hand. I'm leaving, Mom. Her voice trembled. What? She said incredulously. Where? You can't just leave like this. I kept my tone firm, even though I felt the tension growing inside me. I've been carrying this family for too long. It's time for me to go. You and Dad don't really need me. You've always had Lucia for everything else. Mom's expression changed from surprise to total disbelief, as if she couldn't process what she was hearing. Olivia, you know we depend on you. You have been so helpful, and now you are paying us back like this. This time I didn't let myself be manipulated. I've been helpful because I was never given another option. You always expected me to take care of everything. Lucia does what she wants, and you just keep giving her everything. I took a breath and released the words I had been holding back for years. I'm done. Dad entered the room, a confused look on his face. What do you mean you're done? You're going to leave your family after everything we've done for you. I kept my calm. You haven't done anything for me, Dad. Lucia gets a car and I get cleaning products. That's what I mean to you. Mom's face twisted into something like panic. You don't understand. We've made sacrifices for your future. You're not seeing the big picture. I shook my head. No, Mom, I'm tired of seeing the big picture. You've never seen me. You've only seen how you can take advantage of me. I turned and walked towards the door. But Lucia stepped forward, blocking the frame with an arrogant smile. Wow, Ollie, you're leaving already? You can't stand being out of the family spotlight. She let out a mocking laugh. I mean, I just got a new Peugeot 208 for my graduation, and you? You've got a bag full of cleaning products. My blood boiled. Stop saying that, Lucia. I snapped. You have no idea. Mom gave her a stern look but quickly turned her attention back to me. This time her voice sounded desperate. But where are you going to go? You can't just leave us like this. I didn't answer her immediately. I simply walked through the door and left everything behind. It wasn't until I was in the taxi, on my way to the small apartment I had rented that morning, that I felt the weight of what I had just done for the first time. For the first time in years I felt free. The following year went by in a blink. I found an office job in sales just to keep myself stable while I worked on my real plan. It took time, a lot of effort, and too many sleepless nights, but after a few months I started seeing results. I was making money online. Not just a little, but enough to start thinking about bigger things. I no longer depended on my family. I no longer lived in Lucia's shadow. But just as I started to succeed, my family's need to get close to me again grew. It all started with a message from Mom. At first it sounded casual, as if she was trying to pretend everything was normal. Hi Olivia. How's your new home? I hope you're settling in well. Have you been busy with work? I knew it was a disguised attempt to get me to talk about my life, to see if I would fall into the trap and tell them how I was doing. So I answered as simply and vaguely as possible. I'm fine. Work keeps me busy but everything's going well. That was all. A couple of days passed before she wrote again. But this time the tone was different. Olivia, your father and I have been thinking. We are very proud of you. You have always been a hard worker. And we just wanted to tell you that we are here for you. No matter what happens. I could feel the tension in her words, almost as if they were testing the waters, hoping to open the door to something more. I knew exactly what they wanted, but I kept my response neutral. Thanks, Mom. I appreciate it. A week later I received another message. But this time it wasn't from Mom. It was from Lucia. Hi Ollie, I hope you're doing well. I know things have been a little tense between us, but I just wanted to know how you're doing. I've been thinking about you. Lucia thinking about me? That was new. She had never worried about anyone but herself. I didn't want to be rude, but I also didn't want to pretend everything was okay. So I answered in the same vague way as I did with Mom. Everything's fine. Work is going well and I'm keeping busy. Couple of days later my phone rang again. This time it was a call from Mom. I hesitated for a moment before answering. Olivia. Unei. Her voice sounded too sweet. I hope you're well. Pause. Your father and I were talking, and we were wondering if you could come over soon. I felt a knot in my stomach. They hadn't missed me before. Not really. After months without speaking to me, they suddenly wanted to act like they cared. I could hear the desperation in her voice. I don't know, Mom, I replied coldly. I have my life here. Things have changed. Silence. I knew what was coming. Well, we're having some problems, with Lucia's car and the bills. It's been a lot for us lately. We could really use your help. There it was. It wasn't concern, it wasn't regret. It was need. They had gone into debt to spoil Lucia, and now they couldn't sustain it. But they didn't think about that before, and now they expected me to fix their mess. I don't know what you expect from me, Mom, I said, feeling my resolve grow. I'm not coming back. Her voice trembled. We know you're doing well, Olivia. We just thought you could help us a little. The ease with which they expected me to leave everything behind made me sick. I took a deep breath and let out what I had on my mind. I'm not going back. You and Dad made your decisions. You put everything into Lucia. You can't come looking for me just because things are difficult now. I'm not going to fix it. There was a long silence. Then her voice sounded almost pleading. Olivia, please. We've made mistakes, but we're trying to fix them. We need you. I didn't know if I felt anger, pity, or resentment, maybe all at once. I had fought so hard to get out of that place, And now they were trying to manipulate me into going back, to become their backup plan again. I can't help you, I said firmly. I'm not going back to that situation. The calls became constant in the following weeks, each one more desperate. Mom and Dad pleading, reminding me how much they needed me, how much they had sacrificed for me. They even mentioned Lucia, that her grades were dropping, that she didn't know how to handle the pressure. But each time I refused, they insisted more until finally the calls stopped. The silence was almost worse. I knew they were angry, but that didn't stop me. Then one day I received a message from Lucia. This time it was different. It wasn't a simple greeting. It was a cry for help. Olivia, I need your help. Everything is getting out of control. Dad is very upset, and Mom doesn't know what to do. We're in serious trouble. I didn't answer immediately. What did she want from me? What was she trying to achieve? Finally, after a few minutes, I sent a short reply. What do you want from me, Lucia? Her response came immediately, urgency in every word. Ali, I'm serious. We're in debt. We can't pay for the car. I don't know who else to turn to. I felt a weight in my chest. Lucia, who always had it easy, finally realized how bad things were. But that didn't change anything. I typed my response. Lucia, this isn't my problem. It wasn't about money or material things. It was about principles, and I had always been the sacrifice in this family. And I wasn't going to let them do it again. You and Dad got yourselves into this mess. I told you when I left I was done. Don't ask me again. Press send. For the first time in a long time I felt relief. I wasn't going to let them manipulate me into going back. As soon as I put the phone down, it started ringing. It was Mom. I sighed and answered. Your father is very upset, and Lucia isn't well. Her grades are dropping. She can't handle anything. I clenched my jaw. Mom, I don't care about their problems. I have my own life now. You decided to spoil Lucia and forget about me. And now that things are going wrong, you expect me to fix it? No. Silence. I knew my words hurt her, but I wasn't going to apologize. Mom, you have to solve this on your own. I'm not their lifeguard. Her voice cracked. We're not asking you to fix everything, Olivia. We just thought you could help us a little. It's difficult, and we don't know who else to turn to. I felt anger boil inside me. You ignored me when I needed you, but now you expect me to owe you something? What happened to your perfect family? The one that didn't need me while Lucia had everything. I knew this wasn't over. But this time I wasn't going to give in. Olivia, we've made mistakes. We're trying to change. Please come back. I felt a bitter laugh rise in my throat. I'm not going back, nor will I continue to rescue you every time it suits you. You made your decisions, Mom. Please. She tried again, but I interrupted her. No. I've heard this before. I'm not your solution. You want to fix this? Start with Lucia. She has the luxury car. She's never worked a single day. You want to know what it's like to be an adult? Stop using me as your crutch. I heard her crying. You don't understand, Ollie. It's been very difficult. Please. I felt guilt, but I rejected it. I understand perfectly, but I'm not going to give in. I won't put my life on hold to fix yours. I hung up before hearing more. I exhaled, not out of fear, but out of frustration. They had manipulated me my whole life, but not anymore. I knew they would try again. Mom always insisted, Dad always played the victim. But me? I wasn't going to give in. I had worked too hard to go back. A week later, I received a message from Dad. We've changed. We're sorry. We miss you and need you. Come home. Let's work together. I stared at the screen. Part of me wanted to believe them, but I remembered everything, how they never showed me love when I needed it. And now they were begging for my help. I didn't buy it. Days later, another message, this time from Lucia. Are you going to leave us like this? What good is family if you don't help? You're selfish. You're leaving us in a difficult situation. There it was again, the manipulation, the guilt, the same tactics. But this time they wouldn't work. I sat down and wrote my response. You don't understand, Lucia. I'm not your lifeguard. I'm not your solution. You've always had everything effortlessly, and now that things aren't perfect, you expect me to fix it? I don't owe you anything. You're an adult just like me. Learn to fend for yourself. Press send. And I put the phone down. For the first time I felt at peace. I knew this wasn't over. But this time I wasn't going to give in. Don't contact me again unless you're ready to be honest. Press send. My fingers were shaking, but I had never been so sure. Weeks later, a call from an unknown number. It was Dad. Olivia, we're sorry. Your mother and I have tried to fix things. We want our family back. The words hit me harder than expected. For a moment I wanted to believe them, but I remembered everything they had done to me, how they used me, how they manipulated me. I was always their backup plan and I was done with that. I'm not coming back, Dad. Not now, not ever. You made your decisions. Now I'm making mine. Silence. Finally he sighed, defeated. I understand. But we'll be here if you change your mind. I hung up. For the first time in my life I felt truly free. It's been a year. They've tried to contact me, but I've remained firm. I'm not going to let them back into my life, and I'm not going to feel guilty. My independence grows every day. In a few months I'll reach a point where I don't depend on anyone. And I know that when they find out how well I'm doing, they'll try to come back. But this time I won't be there.